Welcome to the First Church in Chestnut Hill for our Sunday service for July 26th, 2020. This will be our last service for the summer, as we traditionally take a break during August. We will return online on Sunday, September 13, the Sunday after Labor Day. Note, when we come back, we will still be online with the hope that we will be having in-person services later in the fall. But for now, our readings. From Psalm 85. Let me hear what God the Lord will speak, for he will speak peace to his people, to his faithful, to those who turn to him in their hearts. Surely his salvation is at hand for those who fear him, that his glory may dwell in our land. Steadfast love and faithfulness will meet, righteousness and peace will kiss each other. Faithfulness will spring up from the ground, and righteousness will look down from the sky. The Lord will give what is good, and our land will increase its yield. Righteousness will go before him, and will make a path for his steps. The next reading is from the book of Genesis, chapter 37, verses 18 to 27. The brothers saw Joseph from a distance, and before he came near them, he conspired to kill him. They said to one another, "Here comes this dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. Then we shall say that a wild animal has devoured him, and he shall see what will become of his dreams." But when Reuben heard it, he delivered him out of their hands, saying, "Let us not take his life." Reuben said to them, "Shed no blood. Throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but lay no hand on him, that he might rescue him out of their hand and restore him to his father." So then Joseph came to his brothers, and they stripped him of his robe, the long robe with sleeves that he wore. And they took him and threw him into a pit. The pit was empty, there was no water in it. Then they sat down to eat and looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead, with their camels carrying gum, balm, and resin on their way to carry it down to Egypt. Then Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and not lay our hands on him, for he is our brother, our own flesh." And his brothers agreed. So ends the reading.
Lebens wilder Freude
Here comes this dreamer. Come now, let us kill him. Joseph was not well loved by his older brothers. Jacob, their father, displayed clear favoritism for Joseph, making his famous cloak. Here it is translated as having long sleeves. Elsewhere it is described as a coat of many colors. In the 1960s it becomes an amazing Technicolor dream coat, a bit of poetic license, but still with a strong scriptural basis. Joseph had told his brother a dream about how they would bow down to him. And so they conspired to kill him. The eldest son, Reuben, tries to foil the plot against Joseph and to help the younger boy escape. But a passing caravan gives Judah an idea. Let's sell our brother into slavery and not have blood on our hands. As a dramatic device, this change is attractive. It advances the story, but as a moral decision, it is extremely lacking. And please note that the suggestion was by Judah, who would become the leader of the 12 tribes of Israel. Even the most significant figures in the Bible, the patriarchs and the prophets, will show episodes of quite bad behavior, violent, selfish, even downright evil, as one might describe this moment. For example, 2 other sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, will cause the destruction of an entire town because of the dishonor they felt was suffered by their sister Dinah. King David will send a righteous man, Uriah the Hittite, to his death to avoid the uncomfortable consequences of the affair David was having with Uriah's wife Bathsheba. In most of these cases, there is a bad event that leads to a terrible reaction. In these cases I mentioned, it's about honor, it's about ego. No one was harmed physically by Joseph telling his dream. It was a slight against the brothers' pride, of Joseph trying to climb up a ladder of superiority that was an essential aspect of the culture of the people of the ancient Middle East and the not so ancient. Let's look again at this story of the dream. Forget the selling a person into slavery for a moment. Imagine you're just there sitting around a dining room table. A big family is gathered together like it's Thanksgiving. Now it's a complex family filled with half-brothers and step-siblings like with Jacob. One younger brother gets up at the table and for some inexplicable reason decides to talk about a dream he had last night. Hey guys, I had this dream that all of you were one day going to bow down to me. What do you think? This is not a Brady Bunch moment with all the siblings suddenly pulling together. Now, no one knows at this point that there is something greater to these dreams, especially not Joseph. Jacob has had dreams sent from God, but there's no indication that Joseph knows anything about either that situation or anything about these new revelations. Instead, he's a young man explaining his dreams to a large family, and it doesn't go well. Now, if you freeze this story at this moment, I would guess that many would be sympathetic to the brothers for feeling angry with Joseph. Not only does Dad give him a snazzy new coat, but here he goes getting up and bragging about something he dreamed last night. At that moment in time, we might think that they are more in the right than in the wrong. Joseph is receiving what turns out to be a prophetic dream, but the brothers don't know that. Dreams are in fact significant in the Bible because of the story of Joseph. And even if that were the case, how were they to know that Joseph was one of these special dreamers? All they knew was that their little brother was getting up and telling tales, and not very nice ones. Now, speaking personally as a little brother, I was more of the keep silent rather than make noise or share strange dreams at the table type. While I might sympathize with Joseph feeling lost in a crowd of siblings, I do wonder at the wisdom of a teenager making such obnoxious claims with his adult brothers around. As the story develops, the others go from wounded pride to attempted murder rather quickly. They settle on forced enslavement, not anything to be proud of. And it's too much to blame Joseph for that extreme reaction. But it would obviously have been more prudent to have kept those dreams to himself, to the extent they suggested this uncomplimentary future state of events. Eventually, this all unfolds in the biblical narrative, so who am I to nitpick? And yet, if I may observe, we do not live in a biblical narrative of events. We live in a metaphorical dining room just like I described, surrounded by many others. And do they deserve to be treated like Joseph treated his brothers? It goes without saying that Joseph did not deserve to be thrown into a pit and sold into slavery, but before that terrible moment, shouldn't he have given a thought to what he was saying? God's prophecy was not going to fall apart because Joseph held his tongue at the dinner table. What good did it do to say these things in that moment to those people, even if it was the truth? Which goes to say, can it ever be wrong to speak the truth? I was reading an article about the Netherlands recently, and one aspect of Dutch culture is bluntness. The Dutch feel free to express their opinions. You do not need to ask them if those pants make you look fat because they will just come out and tell you. And they will add that your haircut looks pretty bad too. One historical root for this modern tendency is the Protestant Reformation, and specifically Calvinism. This religious tradition led to straightforwardness in actions and frankness of speech. One consultant who works with folks dealing with Dutch business concerns described it this way. Calvinism dictated the individual responsibility for moral salvage from the sinful world through introspection, total honesty, soberness, and rejection of pleasure, as well as the enjoyment of wealth. In other words, you can talk about how the dress looks, but not about how much it cost. You can complain about your job, but not compare salaries with your friends. And the Dutch would never suggest that one person is more important or valuable than another. Ruthless honesty in this case is paired with an overriding sense of egalitarianism, which is why everyone gets to speak. I have no understanding that every social evil has somehow evaporated in the Netherlands, but one step closer to change would be social awareness and plain old honesty. Think about Joseph. He told the story of his dreams because he was proud of what they suggested. And pride is a hard sin to avoid. Even the greatest personal attributes can be taken to prideful lengths, as one is the most philanthropic, the most pious, the most whatever adjective taken to extreme. If we assume that the Dutch really are living out a Calvinist model of social behavior, then it suggests some of their blunt honesty may be designed to puncture such balloons of pride. If anyone can and say pretty much anything, it is difficult to get too big of a head. But the positive value of such honesty runs the risk of overriding other social goals, like empathy. One of the reasons people think before they speak or act is in consideration of the effects of what is to be said and done. You meet a friend for lunch and say to them, "Wow, you look terrible." Not, "You look tired," not, "How have you been feeling," but just a critique on how they look. To say "I'm just being honest" may be true, but if the underlying health or well-being of that person is the question, should you sacrifice empathy on the altar of honesty? There is a saying, before you speak, ask yourself if what you are going to say is true, is kind, is necessary, is helpful. If the answer is no, maybe what you're about to say should be left unsaid. True, kind, necessary, helpful. This checklist might cause social media to grind to a halt. What percentage of what we are shown online, what we see in the media, is true? Not shaded in one direction, not edited or reframed to make it look better or less terrible. Just unvarnished truth. If the ultimate concern is truth, then these other three factors just undercut it. Kindness and helpfulness, well, those can be declared judgments. Necessity is relative because we don't know if one piece of information might link up somehow with another. For example, I was a selectman years ago, as I've mentioned, and we received a report from a florist that a town official was sending flowers to someone. Not really a big deal. Not until we noticed that he was using town checks to buy those flowers for a town employee with whom he was having an affair unbeknownst to his wife. Truth linked up with necessity. And the same can be said about helpfulness. Well, helpful to whom? If I argue that taxes need to be lowered to spur business growth, that may be helpful to business owners, but not necessarily helpful to others in the economy. If I argue instead that business taxes need to be raised to support the school systems, well, that helps and that hurts businesses, helping them with a better trained workforce in the long run, while immediately hurting their bottom line. So helpfulness may be a question of not only how, but when. And then there is the softest and cuddliest factor of all, kindness. Kindness is about empathy. It is about being considerate or generous or friendly. And kindness may directly oppose the notion of honesty. Cultures have different approaches to these ideas. Stereotypically, we heard the Dutch value honesty. The British avoid causing offense. Italians speak first and worry about the fallout later. Japanese strive to save face. Again, these are caricatures. These are not sociological profiles. And of course, families may reflect even wider variations within those types. Never speak out of turn. Do not bring shame upon the family name. Or enjoy a blunt and open dialogue among family members. In what type of household communication system did you all grow up? But wait a minute, you might say. Joseph was right. Everything he said was true. It was biblically true. So wasn't honesty the right choice in this situation? The problem with Joseph wasn't honesty. It was arrogance. The prophecies of God were not going to be thwarted because he decided to keep his nightly dreams to himself, particularly at a time when even he wasn't aware that they were coming from God. Someone might say that, well, Joseph had to announce his dreams so that he could be sold into slavery, so that he would end up in Egypt, so that he would become second in command to Pharaoh, and all through it. And that's one perspective. That is the story as written, and it's hard to argue against. But I will say two things. One, Joseph was a shepherd. Some bad guy could have come along in the wilderness, bopped him on the head, and then sold him into slavery. The prophecy would have unfolded. Now, there is a complex narrative in the story of Joseph, which I do not want to unpack right now. But as for Joseph's personal conduct, he could have reined in his ego a little. Second, we're not biblical prophets being visited with divine messages of vast import. If you think you might be one, let me know and we should have coffee. But otherwise, Joseph's behavior is not a great model for our modern life, family or otherwise. If you follow the school of thought that everything we do in this life is dictated moment to moment by God, then such moral instructions may not seem terribly instructive. But the next time someone asks you whether they look good in an outfit, you might want to avoid saying something like, "God told me it makes you look fat." That is a word to the wise. We live in a time of anxiety. It is a time of waiting for the moment when we can act like there's nothing to worry about. And I've heard friends and family and folks in my congregation say that it can be very difficult right now to remain patient. It is difficult feeling like life is just on hold. Feelings may be rough and tender, tempers may be primed to flare. I would be interested to see how the Dutch are faring with their all honesty all the time approach to social interaction. For us in the United States, I would look back at that list, the list about whether we should be speaking in any moment. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it helpful? All four of those are important, but I would nuance them a bit for this fraught moment of history. Is it true, and how do you plan on saying it? Is it kind, and why are you saying it now? Is it necessary, and when would it be best said? Is it helpful, and who is the one who most needs to hear it? Truthfulness is not the same as being hurtful. Kindness is not the same as being deceptive. Necessity is not the same as immediacy. And helpfulness requires more than just blurting out something whenever it pops in your head. It requires finding the right time, place, and manner for a message to truly be heard. If Joseph had gone quietly to speak about his dreams to his father Jacob, a man who had spoken directly with God and had dreams from God, the boy might have understood more about what was happening and caused less turmoil along the way. And if one decides to wait to speak at a different moment, in a different setting, maybe with a different audience even, the truth might be shared in a better way and be better heard, and the relationships underlying it all might be better served. Honesty is a valuable trait. Empathy is a wonderful skill. And we have to reconcile speaking truth, even speaking truth to power, with the capacity to understand the effects of what we're speaking on the wider society and the ultimate goals behind sharing that truth at the onset. That is a struggle in our lives. It is a struggle in society. The truth should win out, but the one who speaks truth should take a moment to understand how they might best be heard and whether anyone will keep on listening to them once everything is said and done. Amen.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for pilgrim feet whose stern impassioned stress a thoroughfare for freedom beat across the wilderness. America, America, God mend thine every flaw. Confirm thy soul in self-control, thy liberty in law. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, may God thy gold refine, till all success be nobleness, and every gain divine. Oh, beautiful for patriot dream that sees beyond the years, thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tears. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Amen.
Let us end in prayer, the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Our service and our summer together is ended. May our service to God and to one another never truly end. Be safe, be well, and God bless you all. See you on September 13th. Goodbye.